In life, there are moments that look ordinary, moments so small, so quiet, that people walk past them every day. But sometimes, one small act of kindness opens a door to a destiny you never imagined. This is one such story, a story about a man nobody respected, a man people barely noticed, a man whose name meant nothing in the city of glass towers and fast money. He was only a security guard. And yet, one afternoon, by helping a lost child, he unknowingly helped himself. His name was Kunle. Every morning before dawn, while the city of Lagos was still half asleep, Kunle would rise from his thin foam mattress in a single-room face-me-a-face-you apartment in Ajegunle. The room smelled of damp walls and yesterday's Gary. Kunle was 43 years old, but life had carved deeper lines on his face than his age deserved. Once, long ago, he had dreams, but dreams do not pay rent. So now, 6 days a week, Kunle stood at the gate of Emerald Crest Estate, wearing a faded navy blue uniform that had been washed too many times. His job? Open the gate, close the gate, salute rich people who barely looked at him. Some residents called him Gate Man. Others didn't call him anything at all. Children passed him like he was invisible. Luxury cars rolled past him like he was air. Yet Kunle never complained, because at home waited his wife, Sade, and two children, who believed their father was the strongest man alive. That Tuesday afternoon was hot, the kind of heat that made the air heavy and slow. Kunle stood at his post, sweat darkening the collar of his uniform, when he noticed something unusual. A small boy. The child stood near the security booth, clutching a tiny school backpack. He couldn't have been more than 6 years old. His eyes darted around nervously. Kunle frowned. Children in Emerald Crest Estate were never alone. Never. Kunle stepped closer and lowered himself slightly so he wouldn't appear threatening. "My son, are you lost?" The boy's lower lip trembled. I can't find my daddy." That single sentence landed heavy in Kunle's chest. Kunle knelt fully now. "What is your name?" "Timmy." "Do you know your daddy's house?" The boy shook his head slowly. "I was following the butterfly. Then I turned, and everything became different." Kunle exhaled. In Lagos, a lost child was not a small matter. He glanced around. The estate road stretched quietly in both directions. No frantic parent in sight. Kunle did something that surprised even himself. He took off his security cap and placed it on the ground. Then he removed a small bottle of water from his bag. "Drink first," he said gently. Timmy drank like a child who had been holding back tears for too long. Kunle could have called the estate office immediately. He could have passed the problem to someone else. But instead, he did something simple. He stayed. He sat with the child under the small mango tree beside the gate. He asked about school, about cartoons, about the butterfly. Timmy slowly began to smile. Minutes turned into nearly an hour. Still no parent. Residents drove in and out, barely noticing the scene. A grown man in a worn uniform, and a small child leaning against him. Just as Kunle was about to escort the boy to the estate management office, he heard it. A shout. Raw. Panicked. Desperate. "Timmy!" Kunle stood immediately. A man was running down the road. Not walking, not jogging, running. His shirt was creased, his face pale, his eyes wild with fear. The kind of fear only a parent knows. The boy's face lit up. "Daddy!" The man fell to his knees when he reached them. He grabbed Timmy like he might disappear again. Tears rolled freely down his face. For a long moment he could not speak. Finally the man stood and faced Kunle. He was tall, well-built, quietly powerful, but dressed simply. No obvious signs of wealth. "Thank you," the man said, his voice thick. Kunle nodded politely. "It's nothing, sir. Children can wander." The man studied Kunle carefully. Not like people usually did. This was different. This was intentional. "What is your name?" "Kunle, sir." The man extended his hand. "My name is Adewale." Kunle shook it, unaware that his life had just reached a turning point. Adewale held his son's hand tightly. Before leaving, he turned back. "You didn't leave him." Kunle smiled faintly. "He's someone's future." Adewale nodded slowly, as if committing the words to memory. Then he walked away. No drama, no promise, no envelope of cash, just a simple nod. Kunle returned to his post, unaware that this was not the end. It was the beginning. Sometimes destiny does not announce itself with thunder. Sometimes it walks away quietly, leaving you to return to your post, unaware that your life has already shifted. Kunle did not know this. Not yet. That evening, Kunle returned home as he always did. Same narrow street, same generator noise humming in the background, same children playing football with a half-deflated ball. His wife, Sade, was stirring a goosey soup on a kerosene stove. "You're late today," she said without turning. Kunle washed his hands at the corner tap. "A child got lost at work," he replied. Sade paused. "Lost?" Kunle nodded and told her everything. When he finished, Sade looked at him for a long moment. "You stayed with him?" "Yes." She smiled softly. "You did well." Kunle shrugged. "Anyone would." Sade shook her head gently. "No, not everyone." That night, Kunle lay awake staring at the ceiling. His mind wandered, not to the child, but to his own worries. School fees were due next week. His landlord had hinted about rent. His uniform shoes were peeling again. He had once been a mechanic apprentice with real skill. But when the workshop burned years ago, life had forced him into survival mode. Security work wasn't dignity. It was endurance. Kunle closed his eyes and whispered a prayer his father had taught him long ago. "May my good today speak for me tomorrow." He did not know how soon that prayer would be answered. Elsewhere in Lagos, Adewale sat in the back seat of a black SUV as it moved silently through the night. Timi slept beside him. The driver glanced in the rearview mirror. "Sir, should I take us to Ikoyi or Victoria Island?" Adewale hesitated. "Home," he said simply. The car turned. Adewale leaned back, eyes closed. Images replayed in his mind. The fear, the panic, the relief. And then, the security guard, Kunle. The way he had spoken to Timi, the way he had stayed. No phone, no attention, no reward demanded, just presence. Adewale opened his eyes slowly. "Find out everything about the security guard at Emerald Crest Estate," he said calmly. The driver nodded. "Yes, sir." By morning, Adewale's assistant had a file. Not thick, not impressive. Just facts. Name, Kunle Adesina. Age, 43. Job, private estate security guard family. Wife, 2 children. Education, technical school, unfinished. Criminal record. None. Adewale stared at the page. This man was invisible to the world. And yet, he had protected what mattered most. Adewale leaned back. "In Yoruba land," he murmured, "we say the hand that saves a child saves the future." He closed the file. "Prepare something," he said, "but don't rush." 2 days later, trouble came to Kunle. A resident had complained. Not about theft, not about negligence, but about respect. "He didn't open the gate fast enough," the woman said sharply to the estate supervisor. Kunle stood silently as the supervisor scolded him. "You people must remember your place," the man snapped. Kunle apologized. He always did. That afternoon, Kunle sat alone during his break, eating cold rice wrapped in nylon. He wondered briefly if kindness was something the world still valued. Then he stood up and returned to his post. That Friday afternoon, a familiar voice reached Kunle's ears. "Uncle Kunle!" Kunle turned. Timi stood there, smiling widely. Beside him, Adewale. Kunle's heart skipped. "Ah, Timi!" The boy ran forward and hugged his legs. Residents slowed their cars to watch. Adewale smiled. "My son has not stopped talking about you." Kunle laughed awkwardly. "He's a good boy." Adewale nodded. "I came to thank you properly." Kunle waved his hand. "No need, sir. I was just doing my job." Adewale's smile faded slightly. "No," he said quietly. "You were doing something bigger." Adewale looked around. "May I sit with you?" Kunle hesitated. Visitors did not sit with security guards, but he nodded. They sat under the same mango tree. Adewale asked about Kunle's family, his children, his work history. Kunle answered honestly, without exaggeration, without pity. Finally, Adewale asked, "If you could change one thing in your life, what would it be?" Kunle thought carefully. I would like my children to have choices, he said. Adewale nodded slowly. That is a powerful answer. He stood. Kunle, I would like to see you again. Kunle blinked. Sir? Tomorrow morning, Adewale continued. Come to this address. He handed Kunle a card. Plain, white, no title. Just a name and address. Kunle accepted it with both hands. That night, Kunle showed the card to Sadie. She frowned. Who is he? I don't know, Kunle admitted. The address was in Ikoyi. Sade swallowed. Rich people don't do things without reason. Kunle nodded. I know. They prayed together. Not for money, not for favor, but for wisdom. The next morning, Kunle stood at the gates of a massive Ikoyi mansion. Tall walls, silent guards, cameras everywhere. His worn shoes felt suddenly very loud. A guard approached. Who are you here to see? Kunle swallowed. Adewale. The guard checked a tablet, then stepped aside. Go in. Kunle's heart pounded. Something told him. His life was about to change. There are places that silence you, not because they are loud, but because they remind you of everything you are not. Kunle felt that silence as he stepped deeper into the compound. The mansion did not shout wealth. It whispered it. Trimmed hedges, shaped like flowing rivers. Glass walls reflecting the morning sun. Security men who spoke softly but moved like shadows. Kunle followed a paved path, every step measured. Inside, the air was cool. Too cool. He wondered how many months of his salary it would take to pay for a single chandelier above him. A maid stopped and smiled. Please wait here. Kunle stood alone, hands behind his back, just like at the gate. Adewale entered moments later, calm, composed. He wore a simple white kaftan. Kunle, he said warmly. Sir? Sit. Kunle obeyed. Adewale studied him again. Longer this time. You didn't recognize me, did you? Kunle shook his head. No, sir. Adewale nodded. That's good. He leaned forward. My full name is Adewale Olatunji. Kunle's breath caught. That name. Everyone knew it. Owner of Olatunji Group. Oil, real estate, banking, logistics. One of the quietest billionaires in Africa. Kunle's ears rang. He stood abruptly. I didn't know, sir. Adewale raised a hand. That's why you passed the test. Adewale continued calmly. When you helped my son, you did not know who I was. Kunle nodded, unable to speak. If you had known, Adewale said, would you have acted differently? Kunle swallowed. No. Adewale smiled. Good. He pressed a button on the table. A man entered with a tray. On it, a brown envelope. Adewale slid it toward Kunle. Take it. Kunle hesitated. Inside was more money than Kunle had ever seen in one place. His fingers trembled. Adewale watched closely. Take it, he repeated. Kunle shook his head slowly. Sir, I appreciate it, but I did not help your son for money. Silence filled the room. Then Adewale laughed softly. That laughter carried relief. Adewale leaned back. Good, because that was only a test. Kunle's eyes widened. Now comes the real question. He folded his hands. Kunle, what do you want? Not money, not fame. What did this man truly want? Kunle thought of his children, his wife, his unfinished dreams. I want dignity, Kunle said quietly. Adewale nodded slowly. That is rare. Adewale stood and walked to the window. I started as a street hawker, he said. No one helped me, except one old man who treated me like a human. He turned. I have been waiting to repay that debt. Adewale faced Kunle fully. I want you to work for me. Kunle blinked. As a guard? Adewale shook his head. No. He paused. As a facility supervisor across my estates, you will be trained. Properly. Kunle's heart thundered. Adewale wasn't done. Salary. 10 times what you earn now. Kunle felt dizzy. And your children's education, fully covered. Kunle's eyes burned. Kunle thought of Emerald Crest Estate, his post, his colleagues. Would they believe this? What if I fail? Kunle asked. Adewale smiled gently. Then you will learn. Kunle bowed his head. I accept. Adewale extended his hand. This is not charity, he said. This is opportunity. They shook hands. History shifted. Within days, rumors spread. The gate man is gone. He's working for a big man. Some laughed, some envied, some didn't believe. But Kunle walked into training rooms instead of standing at gates. He wore clean clothes, held pens instead of whistles. And every night he studied until his eyes ached. When Kunle told Sad everything, she cried. Not loud, not dramatic, the quiet cry of a woman whose prayers had been answered gently. Our children will never beg, she whispered. Kunle held her. This is just the beginning. Elevation is sweet, but it is never silent. When a man rises, the earth beneath him begins to shake. And not everyone is happy with the movement. Kunle's new world spoke a different language. Emails, meetings, reports, deadlines. At first his hands trembled when typing. He was used to standing, not sitting, watching, not deciding. During training, younger men spoke confidently around him. Some glanced at his age, others at his accent. But Kunle listened. He asked questions. He wrote things down. Every night he studied until sleep defeated him. Adewale watched quietly from a distance. He did not interfere. He wanted to see what kind of man kindness had lifted. 3 months later, Adewale called Kunle into his office. There's an estate in Ibadan, he said. Maintenance problems, theft, poor supervision. Kunle nodded. I want you to take charge. Kunle's heart raced. That estate has managers, he said carefully. Yes, Adewale replied. They've failed. Kunle understood. This was a test. From the moment Kunle arrived in Ibadan, he felt it. Cold smiles, forced respect. One manager whispered, Is this the gate man they sent? Kunle heard. He said nothing. He walked the grounds, spoke to cleaners, listened to guards. He learned names, stories, problems. Within weeks, theft dropped, maintenance improved, staff morale rose, but enemies multiplied. One evening, Kunle received a call. Sir, there's a missing equipment report, an accountant said. Kunle checked records. Something felt wrong. Numbers didn't align. He dug deeper. The theft was internal, high level, and the fingerprints pointed to a senior manager. Kunle hesitated. Exposing this could end him, but silence would make him complicit. That night, Kunle remembered his father's words. When truth becomes dangerous, it becomes more valuable. Kunle reported the findings. The manager confronted him privately. You think you belong here? The man sneered. Kunle met his eyes. I belong where truth stands. The manager was dismissed days later. The whispers stopped. Respect replaced mockery. Adewale summoned Kunle. You did well, he said simply. Kunle bowed slightly. I only did what was right. Adewale smiled faintly. That is why you are still here. He paused. There will be more pressure. Kunle nodded. I am ready. Success brought money. Better house, better schools. But old friends came with requests. Loans, favors, promises. Some disappeared when Kunle said no. Others cursed him. Kunle learned that not every hand stretched out deserves to be held. One evening, Kunle's son asked, Daddy, are we rich now? Kunle smiled. We are comfortable. But remember this, he said gently. Richness without kindness is poverty. The boy nodded, not fully understanding, but he would. Every blessing comes with a question, not spoken aloud, but written into the heart. And the question is always the same. Who will you become now that you have power? The Olatunji group was expanding faster than ever. New oil blocks, new housing estates, new logistics routes across West Africa. With growth came pressure. Adewale called an emergency executive meeting. Kunle sat at the table, still not fully used to the weight of his new position. Numbers flashed on screens. One project stood out, a multi-billion naira coastal housing development, and something was wrong. Kunle studied the reports late into the night. Inflated costs, duplicate invoices, invisible contractors. This was not carelessness. This was design. Kunle traced the approvals. The signatures were familiar. Too familiar. They belonged to someone close to Adewale. 2 days later, a man came to Kunle's house. Expensive car. Expensive smile. I hear you are very loyal to Chief Adewale, the man said casually. Kunle said nothing. The man slid an envelope across the table. You don't need to dig further. Kunle did not open it. You've already won in life, the man continued. Why risk it? Kunle stood. Please leave my house. The man smiled thinly. This is Lagos. Everyone has a price. Kunle replied quietly, not everyone. Sleep refused to come. If Kunle reported the fraud, it would hurt Adewale deeply. If he stayed silent, he would betray everything he stood for. At dawn, Kunle made his choice. He wrote a full report, clear, detailed, honest. Adewale listened without interruption. When Kunle finished, silence filled the room. The accused was Adewale's brother-in-law. Blood. Family. Adewale closed his eyes. Thank you, he said finally. You may go. Kunle left, unsure if he had just destroyed himself. By evening, rumors spread. Kunle had been suspended, access revoked, phone unanswered. Friends avoided him. Even Saad was afraid. Did you do the right thing? She asked softly. Kunle nodded. Even if it cost me everything. Weeks passed. No word. Savings drained. Neighbors whispered again. See how he fell. Kunle returned to prayers, to humility, to patience. Before dawn breaks, night must finish its work. And for Kunle, the night was long. The official letter came without ceremony. Services no longer required. No explanation, no defense. Just signatures and silence. Kunle folded the letter neatly. He did not shout. He did not protest. He only closed his eyes and whispered, if this is my portion, give me strength to carry it. News travels fast in Lagos. By morning, blogs were talking. Former security guard turned executive fired for misconduct. Old colleagues shook their heads. So we warned him. People love fallen heroes, especially when they never believed in the rise. Kunle tried calling Adewale. Once, twice, 10 times, nothing. Said watched him quietly. Maybe this was not meant to last, she said softly. Kunle nodded. Then it was still worth it. Kunle sold the car, moved to a smaller apartment, removed his children from private school. He did not complain. He found short security jobs again, night shifts, low pay, same uniform, different heart. One night, the same man from before appeared again. You see, where he said, integrity did not save you. He placed another envelope on the table. This time, double. Kunle stood. You came too late. The man laughed. You think righteousness feeds children? Kunle replied calmly. It feeds the soul, and God feeds the body. The man left angry. Kunle's daughter came to him one night. Daddy, are you still a good man? Kunle knelt and hugged her. Yes, she smiled. Then we are still rich. Kunle wept silently. Unknown to Kunle, Adewale had not been silent. He had been building a case. Auditors, lawyers, hidden accounts exposed. The betrayal cut deep. But truth moved slowly, and then all at once. At 3:17 a.m., Kunle's phone rang. Unknown number. Kunle, Adewale's voice said. I owe you an apology. Kunle closed his eyes. Please come to my office in the morning. Truth does not hurry. It walks slowly. But it never loses its way. Kunle stood once again before the gates of the Olatunji Group headquarters. This time he wore a simple shirt. No title, no badge, just character. The same receptionist who once rushed to greet him now looked unsure. Please wait, she said. The door opened almost immediately. Adewale stood. Come in, my brother. Adewale slid a thick file across the desk. Bank records, emails, confessions. My brother-in-law and 3 executives have been arrested, Adewale said quietly. Kunle listened silently. They framed you, Adewale continued. I allowed it, because I wanted to be certain. Kunle's chest tightened. But you never broke, Adewale said. That is rare. A press conference followed. Cameras flashed. Adewale spoke clearly. Kunle Adesina acted with integrity. His name is cleared. Blogs corrected headlines. Silence replaced mockery. Neighbors avoided eye contact. Adewale turned to Kunle privately. You lost comfort because of truth. Kunle nodded. You will gain responsibility because of character. He handed Kunle a document. Managing Director, Social infrastructure. Division. Kunle's hands shook. Sir, this division controls schools, housing, and security across our estates, Adewale said. And, he added gently, you will also own shares in the company. Kunle could not speak. Adewale looked at him closely. You helped my son without knowing who I was. Kunle smiled faintly. I only saw a child. Adewale nodded. And that is why I see a leader. When Kunle returned home, Sade fell to her knees. They cleared your name, she whispered. Kunle lifted her. This was never about me alone. Kunle insisted on one thing: better wages for guards, training programs, education scholarships. Because, he said, someone once ignored a gateman. There are acts so small that the world ignores them, yet generations remember them. This is how Kunle's story became bigger than Kunle. One quiet morning, Kunle stood once again at Emerald Crest Estate, not as a guard, not as an executive, but as a man returning to the place where destiny first knocked. The mango tree still stood. The gate still creaked. A new guard saluted nervously. Kunle smiled. Relax. I once stood where you stand. The guard's eyes widened. A small boy stepped forward. Older now. Taller. Timi, Kunle said, smiling. The boy grinned. You never left me. Adewale joined them. My son still remembers the man who treated him like a human. Kunle looked away humbly. Months later, a new foundation was launched. The Kunle Adesina Initiative. It funded education for security guards' children, skill training for forgotten workers, housing support for low-income staff. Kunle refused to name buildings after himself. Let the impact speak, he said. At home, Kunle's children listened to his stories. Did you know Daddy was once a gate man? His son asked proudly. Kunle smiled. And what matters more? That Daddy is kind, his daughter replied. At a company retreat, Adewale raised a glass. In our land, he said, we say, the hand that lifts a child lifts a kingdom. Applause filled the hall. Kunle bowed his head. Years later, Kunle still greeted guards first, still listened, still remembered, because he knew kindness was not the door. Kindness was the key. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, and turn on the notification bell for more interesting, heartfelt stories from us. Also, let us know where you're watching from. See you on the next one.